On December 10, 1901, at a ceremony in Stockholm presided over by Crown Prince Gustaf of Sweden, the first Nobel Prizes were awarded, with each winner receiving 150,000 Swedish Krona, which would be about 900,000 US dollars today. Among the 1901 winners, Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen stood out as the most notable, receiving the Nobel Prize in Physics for his discovery of X-rays. People at the time already saw this new prize as something special, and it quickly became known as one of the world's most prestigious awards. But how were the winners chosen? And what is the connection between dynamite and the Nobel Prize? Alfred Nobel was born in Stockholm, Sweden in 1833. He was a man of varied interests, something that is reflected in the prize he established. He was an inventor, a scientist, and a businessman, but he also dabbled in poetry and drama. Nobel's biggest professional achievement was when he figured out how to stabilize nitroglycerin by combining it with diatomaceous earth, creating a paste that could be formed into explosive sticks. He called his invention dynamite, from the Greek word for power, and patented it in 1867. It changed the world, with immediate applications in civil engineering and mining. At his villa in San Remo, Italy, Nobel died in 1895 of a stroke at age 63. He was buried in his homeland of Sweden. In his will, he left much of his wealth to create a fund that would award 5 annual prizes to those who, during the preceding year, shall have conferred the greatest benefit on mankind. The original 5 categories were physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. In 1969, a 6th category, economics, was added. Then and now, the Nobel Prize is entirely funded by the interest earned from his fortune. The Nobel Foundation administers the funds, but it does not choose the winners. Instead, 4 institutions in Sweden and Norway determine the recipients, who are chosen through a thorough selection process that begins with the nomination of candidates by scholars and past winners. About 1,000 people are nominated each year for the various prizes. Over time, some Nobel Prize winners have become household names. They include Marie and Pierre Curie for their pioneering work in radioactivity, Albert Einstein for his theory of relativity, Martin Luther King Jr. for his nonviolent approach to the American Civil Rights Movement, Alexander Fleming for his life-saving discovery of penicillin, Ivan Pavlov for his groundbreaking research in digestion, although he's much more famous for his work in classical conditioning, Aung San Suu Kyi for her decades-long nonviolent struggle for democracy in Myanmar, Werner Heisenberg for his development of quantum physics, Mother Teresa for her tireless efforts to help the poor and marginalized, and Bob Dylan for his poetic expressions in American popular music. 4 U.S. presidents have won the esteemed Nobel Peace Prize, 3 of them while still in office, including Theodore Roosevelt in 1906 for helping to broker peace between Russia and Japan, Woodrow Wilson in 1919 for his creation of the League of Nations as part of the World War I peace process, and Barack Obama in 2009 for his efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation. Jimmy Carter received the award in 2002, 21 years after leaving office, for his lifelong work to find peaceful solutions to international conflicts. Today, Nobel Prize winners receive 11 million Swedish krona, or about 1.2 million US dollars, still paid from the fund established by Alfred Nobel all those years ago. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1869, 50 years before the 19th Amendment, Wyoming grants women the right to vote. In 1884, American author Mark Twain's classic novel Adventures of Huckleberry Finn is published. In 1898, the Treaty of Paris ends the Spanish-American War and grants the U.S. an overseas empire. In 1941, Japan seizes Guam, a territory won by the U.S. in the Spanish-American War. In 1950, American diplomat Ralph Bunche becomes the first person of color to win the Nobel Peace Prize. In 1978, Sadat and Begin are jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for signing the Camp David Accords. In 2006, LaDainian Tomlinson scores his 29th touchdown, breaking the NFL single-season record. And now it's time for our Today in History quiz. Pan Am Flight 103 exploded over which Scottish town in 1988? Plockton, Gairloch, Falkland, or Lockerbie? Liked learning about the Nobel Prize? Then you'll love this one about the first person to ever win one in physics. Tap the screen to keep the story going on Today in History.